Greetings, comrades. I hope this finds you well. Quick shout out to the Indie News Network, which I'm stoked to be a part of. So, the WHO is saying unless drastic action is taken very quickly, frankly, then there's potentially up to 1 million children in Afghanistan that will be starving, literally starving to death this winter as a direct result of US sanctions on Afghanistan, as well as the fact that the United States is withholding billions and dollars of their money from the government because they don't like who's in power there, i.e., the Taliban. And basically, how this winter in Afghanistan, it's already, I think, 23 out of the 39 million people in Afghanistan currently don't have enough food to eat. And it's going into the winter there. It is the winter there now, and things are just going from kind of worse to dire. And it's a direct result of the U.S. not allowing this type of aid to get in, and the sanctions making it a lot harder for these international organizations that would potentially be providing some humanitarian aid to the people there that obviously desperately need it, preventing that from happening, as well as I mentioned, not allowing the government there access to that money that they could potentially be using to feed the people there, so we don't have 1 million fucking children dying from hunger. Completely preventable. Really, really disgusting. And where's all the fucking humanitarian interventionists now who were saying, we got to stay in Afghanistan, we got to protect the women, protect the children? You don't hear them calling out for an end to these sanctions, or for the government of Afghanistan to have access to their money, which in the billions, which the US is withholding right now. Again, just really sickening and disgusting, and just another example, frankly, of how the United States empire is by far and away the biggest purveyor of death and destruction in the world. And this completely preventable humanitarian crisis that's taking place in Afghanistan right now is the result of the sanctions by the US government, and as well as them withholding billions of dollars of money that is Afghanistan government's money, withholding it from them. Just think about that level of depravity. A fucking million children could starve to death. All the U.S. would need to do to prevent that: drop the sanctions, give them back the millions of dollars that we're currently withholding, that we stole from them, more or less. Again, the U.S. empire cannot go away quick enough. I'll just show this article real quick from The Intercept. This is from, who's the author? I'll link it down below and give them a quick shout out. This is Murtaza Hussain. Silence or worse of human rights hawks and U.S. sanctions against Afghanistan. Right? They're saying, "Oh, we gotta stay there, protect the women and children." Women and children dying in the thousands, tens of thousands, potentially in the fucking millions. Not a chirp, not a peep. Absolute fucking crickets, because those people aren't fucking serious. They were just, ready and willing to do the bidding of the U.S. empire, right? Thanks to economic collapse accompanying the U.S. military withdrawal, coupled with the imposition of sanctions, the cessation of much humanitarian aid, millions of Afghans must contend with the very real prospect of starvation. Some will die. Many will lose their lives to preventable deaths. Again, it's completely preventable. WHO has already warned that up to 1 million Afghan children may die as a result of malnutrition over this winter if drastic steps are not taken. Children, again, all of these horrible things that happen in the world, it's always the most vulnerable and marginalized who are impacted by it the most. In this case, literal fucking children. Children already bearing the brunt of the humanitarian catastrophe, punctured by horrifying stories of kids being sold to pay for food. And the country's notoriously harsh Oh, yeah. Okay. I just wanted to make sure I was sharing my screen there. In the country, notoriously harsh winter has already taken toll. Afghans are freezing to death as they flee the country with their families. U.S. sanctions policy is directly to blame, pushing Afghans over the edge as they already struggle to deal with COVID-19 pandemic and the political upheaval created by the collapse of the central government. As Paul Spiegel, director of Center for Humanitarian Health at Johns Hopkins Bloomberg School of Public Health, wrote this December after returning from a trip to Afghanistan on behalf of the WHO. Quote, I can clearly state that the United States and other Western governments do not change their Afghanistan sanctions policy. More Afghans will die from sanctions than at the hands of the Taliban. And over this winter, potentially again, if this drastic actions aren't taken to alleviate this, needless suffering, more people have died from these sanctions, from U.S. policy, than during that whole 20-year war and the U.S. occupying that country. Alongside new sanctions, as we already talked about, imposed after the Taliban takeover, U.S. froze nearly $10 billion of Afghanistan's central bank holdings here. 10 fucking billion. That could feed a lot of fucking people. The Biden admin refuses to release the funds despite ongoing public protests by Afghans. As all of this plays out, the clamor of voices criticizing the U.S. military withdrawal this summer on humanitarian grounds has gone deadly silent. Yeah, not hearing a fucking peep, are we? After the withdrawal, many commentators and political leaders claimed that there was a humanitarian imperative behind the conflict, particularly the protection of Afghan women. Afghan women are being affected by this, obviously. Silence is how you can tell these people aren't fucking serious. Many of the humanitarian and feminist arguments have been used for years to help justify military occupation. In contrast, ending the current sanctions regime and releasing funds owned by Afghans, again, it's their fucking money. 10 billion of it we're stealing from them right now, actually would do something unambiguously positive for civilians, including women and children who are at particular risk. Fucking A, dude. Fucking A. Again, that's why very, very problematic, in my opinion, when anybody identifies as an American patriot, particularly if they claim to be on the left or patriotic socialist or any of that bullshit. Because what the U.S. represents, what the American flag represents, what American patriotism represents is death, destruction, starvation, sanctions, bombs, stealing, land theft, genocide, etc. Oh my fucking god, dude. So disheartening to hear and see shit like this almost on a daily basis about the crimes of, US imperialism, and how it goes, unchecked no matter who is in office. I did hear on Democracy Now! As I was driving earlier today that the Congressional Progressive Caucus has issued a statement or something calling for an end to these sanctions. But okay, that's good. But what are you going to actually use any of your, political power to make a stand for this, so we don't have a million fucking kids dying from literally starving to death this winter in Afghanistan? Talk is cheap. Let's see you actually fucking do something with the power, CPC. I'm not expecting much, but who knows? Maybe they'll I would love to be proved wrong, particularly on this issue. Subscribe for more content. Quick shout out to the 2 Uber comrades supporting my channel, my partner, and Indie Left News. Peace.